I was clinically dead for 3 days, but what shattered me wasn't death itself. It was what I saw afterward, something so profound that I could never return to life as it was. If consciousness truly ends when the heart stops, then who is it that pulled me from my body? Who called my name in a wordless language I understood as if it were part of my flesh? Who showed me glimpses of my future while I was still suspended between life and death? My name is Isabelle Grace. In 2017, I was 32 years old, a spiritual therapist who had sat with hundreds of people in their final moments. I had taught about surrender, about forgiveness, about healing. However, the truth is that I had never really surrendered. I had never truly forgiven myself. I only knew how to say the words, not how to feel them. For years, I lived as if I were pretending to heal others, as if that could somehow cover up the truth I didn't dare face. I had lost someone I loved with my entire soul, and a part of me had died that day. What was left of me kept moving forward, working, helping, trying to prove I still had value. That morning was like any other. I took my prescribed medication to regulate my immune system. No one could have predicted that the very drug meant to help me would unleash a brutal attack on my liver. Within hours, my organs began to fail. I felt dizzy, exhausted, and then lost consciousness. I was airlifted to the hospital in a deep coma. I had no idea what was happening around me, but one thing I knew for certain: I wasn't ready to die. I remember the feeling with startling clarity, even though they said I was already unconscious. I remember the cold fluorescent light of the ICU. I remember the hurried footsteps and the urgency in the doctor's voice. I remember the moment I heard my heartbeat falter, and in that precise instant, my awareness began to slip away like a drop of water falling from a shattered glass. I didn't see darkness like so many describe. I saw myself, and I didn't recognize who I was. Who am I when I am no longer in a body? Who am I when pain no longer defines me? Who am I when the light is so gentle it melts me like a child being truly embraced for the first time? I knew I was leaving the physical world, but I wasn't afraid. What terrified me most wasn't death. It was the realization that I had never truly lived. And then the most extraordinary thing began to unfold. I felt an invisible pull drawing me into a space completely unlike anything I had ever known or imagined. What was this place? Why could I see it so clearly? And what was waiting for me on the other side of that light? They say that when you die, your life flashes before your eyes, but what I saw was more than just my past. I saw things that had never even happened. Why? What did it mean? In the next part, I'll take you into that space where there is no time, no form, only one undeniable truth waiting to be named. I don't remember exactly when I collapsed. All I recall is the moment the world slipped out of my hands like a film that someone suddenly paused. The sound of the machines faded. My breath, once frantic, disappeared. My limbs stopped shaking. There was only one thing: I could still feel something unfolding silently inside me. A void, like a bottomless well, opened right in the center of my chest, and I fell into it without resistance. Doctors later said I had suffered acute liver failure, which led to multi-organ collapse, kidneys, circulation, and everything. My body was overwhelmed by toxins. I was placed into a deep coma, intubated, and rushed into the ICU. But I didn't hear any of their voices. I didn't feel the machines trying to keep me alive. I was somewhere else entirely. I was floating, not like a bird, but more like gliding on a current of invisible energy, like wind brushing past leaves, like light slipping through water. I saw myself lying motionless on the hospital bed, thin, pale, like a shell of a person whose soul hadn't quite left. I wondered, who is she? Why does she feel both familiar and so heartbreakingly distant? I couldn't remember my name. I couldn't remember my age. I only knew one thing with absolute clarity: I no longer belonged there. The sensation of separating from my body wasn't frightening like I had always imagined. It was light, like mist, like a dream, as if I had finally laid down the burden I'd carried for 32 years, a burden called be strong, be the healer, have the answers, set the example. But now there were no roles to uphold, no audience to impress, no one left to please, not even myself. I was just me. Nothing more, nothing less. I began to rise, as if a magnetic force was pulling me out of the dense atmosphere of the hospital, beyond every physical law I had ever trusted. Time no longer moved like a river. It became a space I could stand inside, where I could see forward, backward, and into places I had never known. I had no form, no name, yet I was still entirely myself. I didn't disappear. I had just become fully present for the very first time. And then what came first wasn't light, it was sound. A low, gentle vibration, wordless yet vast, echoing not through my ears but deep within my soul. It was a sound that stirred something ancient in me, as if it came from a place I once belonged to but had long forgotten. It didn't speak in any human language, but I understood every word. It asked me one question, and it shattered me from the inside out. Are you ready? I didn't know where I was going. I had no idea what lay ahead, but I knew with certainty that I could not return. I didn't know whether I was dead or simply drifting between life and death, but I knew that what was coming next wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. They say that after death we find rest. But what awaited me wasn't sleep, it was awakening. A realm not of this earth, a memory that didn't belong to this lifetime, and 3 strange sources of light, waiting for me with the promise that if I dared to face the truth, I would never be the same again. I kept drifting, weightless in a realm without form, without sound, without any explanation. I didn't know where I was going until the first light appeared. It wasn't blinding. It didn't blaze like the sun. It was soft like velvet, like a lullaby whispered by a mother, like the first embrace you ever received but forgot long ago. 3 streams of light emerged before me, like 3 living souls. They had no faces, no gestures, yet I knew they were looking at me not with eyes, but with something far deeper. Each light had its hue, one a ruby red, warm like fire, one an amethyst purple, deep like the night sky, and one an emerald green, vibrant like life itself. Every color carried a distinct feeling, as if they were living memories I had never fully understood. I was drawn into their current without moving an inch. I wasn't standing in front of the light, I became the light. I didn't hear anything with my ears, but each light poured into me a lesson, an awakening, in a language beyond words. The ruby light asked me not with a voice, but with pure feeling. Have you ever loved yourself? Have you ever looked at yourself with the same eyes you use to love others? Have you ever stood before the mirror and told yourself you deserve to live without needing a reason? I wept, though I had no tears left. I wept with my entire soul, because I knew the answer was no. I had believed love meant sacrifice, giving, and placing others first. But it had never occurred to me that love might begin within, with the simple grace of loving myself. The amethyst light whispered into me like waves brushing against stone. You are not what happened to you. You are how you respond to it. You are not the pain you endured. You are the awareness that survived it. You've taught others about healing, but somewhere along the way, you forgot yourself, lost beneath layers of righteousness and responsibility. Who will hold the child within you if you are too busy holding the entire world? I bowed my head not in shame, but because for the first time I saw myself completely. No hiding, no masks. Then the emerald light drew me into a space that couldn't be located, a place I didn't remember ever visiting, yet it felt hauntingly familiar. Time in this place folded into a single thread, and I was shown my entire life, every moment from childhood to adolescence to adulthood. Every glance, every word, every time I caused someone pain or made someone smile appeared before me as if the universe had recorded it all without missing a second. I saw an old friend crying alone because of something careless I had said. I saw my mother quietly wiping away tears after I slammed the door without saying goodbye. I saw strangers I had passed without a glance, not realizing my indifference had made them feel invisible. And I also saw the forgotten moments when I knelt to tie an elderly man's shoe, or raised my hand to shield a child from the sun. Everything had been recorded. Nothing was judged, nothing praised. It was simply the truth, exactly as it was. I realized that every action, every word, every emotion I had ever sent out into the world left a mark, no matter how small. There is no such thing as just a little thing in this life. Every bit of energy we release comes back to us in ways we cannot imagine. I didn't see God appear. I didn't see angels with wings. But I saw light. I saw love. I saw the truth. And I understood that it was more miraculous than any myth ever told. When all the images dissolved into light, it was just me and a single question rising from deep within. Do you want to go back? I didn't answer right away, because I knew if I returned, I would never be the same. I would have to truly live, not hide, not perform, not try to heal others before healing myself. I would have to carry this light and live as if each day were a gift, not an obligation. And then I saw a small spark of light resting in the palm of my hand. The light said nothing. It simply nudged it toward me, a silent promise. I gently closed my fingers around it, and for the first time, I understood what it means to be given a choice. When I woke up, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. But I knew that the spark was still resting in my hand, even if no one else could see it. Something had changed within me. Something I had brought back from the other side. And what I would do with it, how I would live from that moment on, is the question the next part will answer. And maybe, just maybe, it's a question meant for you too. I woke up under the white light of the hospital, not the sacred light that had once wrapped around my soul, but the cold, clinical glow of fluorescent tubes reflecting off a stained ceiling. I heard the steady rhythm of the ventilator beside me, felt the tube lodged deep in my throat, and my hand was heavy as if chained by something unseen. I couldn't move, but I knew I was back, and the spark was still inside me, even if no one else could see it. They told me I had been in a coma for 3 days and 3 nights. My vitals had dropped dangerously low. Yet, slowly and inexplicably, I began to recover. No one could explain how or why I was improving so quickly, and no one could understand the strange stillness in my eyes, as if I were seeing this world through the gaze of someone newly born. I lay there for hours in silence, no longer needing to explain, no longer feeling the urge to speak. I watched the morning sunlight filtering through the hospital window and felt an overwhelming gratitude, as if it were the first sunrise I had ever truly seen. I heard the footsteps of nurses and felt no irritation. I looked at familiar faces who came to visit and felt no trace of blame. I was like an old branch finally receiving water in the middle of a drought. And all I wanted was to hold on to that feeling, not to let it slip away like so many things I had let go before. My mother sat beside me, holding my hand. Her hand was thin, weathered, and trembling slightly as it touched mine. She didn't say a word. She didn't ask what I had seen. I simply looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't see her as the person who had once hurt me, but as a human being who needed to be held. I lifted my hand, though it was weak, and closed my fingers around hers. There were no apologies, no explanations. Just a quiet touch between two souls who had been distant for far too long, now finding their way back. In the days that followed, I slowly recovered. I began eating again, learning to breathe again, relearning how to walk with unsteady steps like a child taking their very first. But more importantly, I began to live again, not just to survive, but to truly be present. I saw others as souls, just like me, learning how to love. And I no longer rushed to fix anyone or tried to heal the world as if it were my responsibility. Instead, I simply chose to be present with the light I had brought back. I returned to work after a few months, but I was no longer the same therapist. I sat with my clients not to diagnose, but to truly listen. Not to change them, but to walk beside them, like two souls journeying together on the same path. I didn't talk much about the light anymore. The light was in how I looked at them, in how I spoke, in every breath I took with full awareness. I didn't tell this story to everyone because I knew some people weren't ready to believe, and some already understood without needing to hear it. I wrote a few lines for myself, as a quiet reminder that I came back and that I would live in a way worthy of what I was given. Someone once asked me, "Isabelle, after going through all of that, are you afraid of death?" I smiled and answered, "I'm not afraid of death anymore. What I fear now is something else. I fear not fully living before I die. Because once you've seen the light from the other side, there is no reason left to live halfway." But there's one last thing I haven't shared. That spark of light wasn't just a symbol. It was a promise, a silent covenant between me and the light that once called my name. What happens when you carry a piece of that light back into everyday life? How do you live without wasting a second chance at being born? The final part will hold that answer for you. Ever since I came back, I've kept the habit of rising early. Each morning, I sit quietly before the world wakes, just to feel the hum of that spark in my chest. No one can see it. No one can touch it. But I know it's still there, unchanging, unwavering, like a silent breath guiding me back to the truth. I didn't become a speaker. I didn't write a book about my life. I turned down interviews and television invitations. Instead, I chose to live slowly, simply, and truthfully. I started with the smallest things, clearing out an old room, planting flowers by the front porch, calling a friend I once held a grudge against, writing a letter of forgiveness to my 20-year-old self, then burning it like a quiet ritual of release. No applause. No soundtrack. Just me and the forgotten pieces of myself finally being named again. I didn't try to change the world. I only tried not to repeat the way I once lived unconsciously. I looked into the eyes of strangers at the market. I smiled when someone cut me off. I didn't flare up when I was misunderstood, because now I know every one of those small acts sends a ripple through the universe. I'm not kind enough to impress anyone. I'm kind because I've seen what even the smallest choices can create. I live as if every breath is an unspoken prayer, as if every touch is an unspoken apology or thank you. Sometimes I think back to that moment when the light asked me, "Are you ready?" And I realize that question wasn't just meant for the moment of death. It was meant for every single day of life, ready to love, ready to let go, ready to forgive, and ready to begin again, for no other reason than because today is still a chance to do so. I'm not sharing this story to make you believe what I saw, not to be admired, not to be doubted. I'm sharing it so that you might ask yourself, if today were your last day here, how would you choose to live? If you were given a spark of light, what would you do with it? And if some part of you has always known that light, but somehow forgot the way back, would you dare to open your heart and remember? I was dead for 3 days. But what matters most isn't that I came back. What matters is that I learned how to be truly present from that moment on. No teaching is more powerful than a life lived from a place of awakening. No experience is more sacred than realizing you still have the chance to live differently, even if only once. And if you're still listening now, maybe that means you too are carrying a spark you haven't yet named. Maybe it's time to sit quietly with yourself, not for a reason, not with a plan, not needing permission, and listen for the one question only you can answer. Are you ready?